Hey everybody, welcome back to the second session of our Vicky 3 playthrough. We're still very early on. We are fighting the Great Sioux Nation right now, or the war's gonna break out, but like it's so unbelievably easy. I've never lost a native war before. Well, hold on. Very, very early in the game's development when war worked different, yes, I lost some wars just because you'd have to do a weird naval invasion. But for the most part, you know, you got nothing to worry about fighting those wars. Tech-wise, because I'm sure we all need a little refresher. I know there's some people here who weren't here last time. We are going pharmaceuticals and going right to quinine. The reason for this is pharmaceuticals gets us better healthcare law, which I would like to get kind of early before the religious are too weak, you know? Like, we have a very illegitimate government right now, and we can't make it more legit at the moment. It happens as America, sometimes you just get a bad election, where you can't get a very legit government, but it's not really the end of the world. We get some detriments for being in the unacceptable range. We get more radicals from political movements. If we're trying to pass a law, every stage of it is at half speed, which is really brutal. And you lose a little bit of opposition interest group approval, although you get that above 50 as well. You get -1 on it. It's not until 75 plus that you have no negatives at all. How do you invade a landlocked nation? Well, you could either invade the things next to it, or on this patch, they made it so that you could sign a treaty. Let's just pick any random country I can see here. So Spain. Let's say, I don't know. Let's say I wanted to invade Switzerland. I can't. I don't have the ability to get in there. It's landlocked, you know? What I could do is I could sign with Sardinia, Piedmont. Never mind, don't have contact with them. I could sign with France. Where is it? Do I already have... Wait, do I already have an agreement with them? No. Treaty. Unavailable? Okay, well, military access is unavailable because I don't have a strategic interest adjacent to France. That's fine. But if this was available, I could do military access, and that would let me do what is essentially a naval invasion through land. It's just called an invasion, but it works the same way functionally. It's a new mechanic. It works really well. Although... you can only do a land invasion that way if your army is within 4 weeks travel time of the destination. That's because when they first did that patch, people were doing really cheesy, weird shit with it that was clearly not intended. So that kind of fixes that. Okay, right now we're basically just building up our construction pretty hardcore. You can see that we're going on building a very tall iron mine in Pennsylvania, although we're likely going to be peppering in a lot more wood early on, just because wood is a great way to de-peasant. That is the task of taking peasants in a place. You can see peasants at the bottom, like there's 87,000 peasants here looking for work. They're all living on subsistence farms right now. So they produce all this stuff, but only 10% of it goes to the market of the country. 90% of that is just being consumed by themselves. It's almost fake GDP. That's why places like China and Russia have vastly overinflated GDP at the beginning that isn't actually representative of their industrial output. We want to get those people moved into jobs where they're working more efficient buildings, whether that be agriculture resources or urban buildings. I don't have a strong preference. Going heavy on agriculture early is a great way to accidentally make the southern planters way too powerful, and it can hurt your politics. So I recommend going agriculture heavy a little later in the game when that's not as much of a problem. Whereas resources are very important early game, and the whole game really, because they're a huge return on investment, and they hire a lot of people who don't need a very good education. So it's a great way to increase the standard of living of the peasants. And plus, once the peasants start working in the factories, you know, let's say they're working in a textile mill, all of these laborers used to be peasants. Well, when they were a peasant, they weren't really buying much because they produced everything themselves. They weren't contributing to the economy. Now that they're laborers, they are not only making a better wage, but they're spending that wage to get their clothing and their furniture and their food and all of that, rather than making it themselves. Which means they're buying things from other businesses that we own. So although it's costing them money, that money is going into another business, which is going into other employees' pockets. You're getting some tax money out of that. You're getting more tax money in the future once we get dividends taxes. And so you're moving the wealth around, and you are getting it through more points of getting taxed, so you're making more money, they're making more money, they're getting a better standard of living, and you're creating more demand for the other goods. You're not going to have a lot of clothing demand if everyone's a peasant, because most of the peasants are making their own clothes. But as you turn people into shopkeepers, mechanists, and laborers, they're not making their own clothes. They need to buy that on your market, and that is creating opportunities to make profitable textile mills so that other people can make those textiles and we all prosper. Everyone's standard of living goes up. Everyone has a better standard of living and more money in their wallets than on the peasant system. This is how economics works in real life and also how it works in the game. That was a misclick. I want to set up a new interest. Hold on, what am I losing? France? I'm gonna put it right back in France. It looks like we dipped below the level of having an interest and then back up into the level of an interest, so it was starting to go away. It happens sometimes. Don't worry about it, completely normal. Also, I don't care if pops are below minimum standard of living in District of Columbia. The District of Columbia is a meme location. Nobody fucking lives in DC. It has almost no room for any buildings, and it's largely useless, and it has the White House, which this bonus looks really good, 20% government administration throughput, but it only applies to DC. Basically meaning as useless as your capital. It is a completely valid strategy to early on change capital to New York if you want to. I can't do it during a play. I might do it later. There's some minor detriments to switching capital that go away over time. So yeah, isn't this the time of the French Revolution? I mean, yeah, but they have a lot of revolutions. Like, who's their king right now? Is it still Bourbon? Yeah. It's rather not Bourbon, it's Philippe d'Orléans. The Orleanists are probably the best monarchy for France, but they tend to get overthrown a lot. Usually Napoleon takes over, not the one you're thinking of, the other one, the third. Okay. Law proportional causes uproar in Afro-American communities. Afro-American, if you don't know that term, it's Black Americans. You can see their demographics in our country. Over 2 million of them are slaves. But we also have about 250,000 of them who aren't slaves. Most of the freed slaves are peasants, fewer laborers, few work in other jobs. Even 145 of them are even aristocrats and are very wealthy, but the vast majority of them right now are slaves. Anyway, they are upset about me trying to enact secret police. We can pick a few things here. The one I usually pick is, their thoughts concern us. How? Force the issue through. It's a little bit of success chance. Hurts your bureaucracy by 5% for 5 years, which is fine. And it makes the Afro-Americans of Louisiana 5% more, or 5% of them more radical. Louisiana already doesn't have a crazy population, and their Afro-American population is probably quite small, so that's not a big deal. Token amendments make them less angry, but there's no benefit. And this one makes them more happy, but we lose success chance. I would rather lose bureaucracy and gain success chance and make them more radical because it's so unbelievably minor. Love Victoria playing solo Italy and Canada US multiplayer with a friend. That sounds fun. Those are fun countries. The 600,000 people currently live in DC. How many people live there at this point? 100,000. And not all 100,000 of those are job seekers, mind you. Only about 11,000 of them are job seekers. It's just the unemployed and the peasants. It looks like no one who's currently employed there is looking for new work. Maybe we should try Luxembourg next for the memes. I did get the achievement where you become a top porcelain, luxury clothing and luxury furniture seller as Luxembourg, although that was on a very early patch of this game, like 3 years ago. Okay, we're at war with the Great Sioux Nation. We don't even need to pay attention to this war. We will not lose it. They have no army on this front. They have no army on either front. In fact, they have no army. I don't know why they declared war on me. They have no army. Okay. Anti-Ottoman Association demands action. They want me to rival the Ottoman Empire. Well, you know what? They're not dangerous to me. And they usually fail Sick Man of Europe and become Dead Man of Europe in, I believe it's 1866 is when they will fail that quest unless they do a bunch of reforms beforehand, which they sometimes get, but I would say about 1/4 of the time they pass it. Most of the time they fail. When they fail, they become an unrecognized nation, and then you can really bully them with no consequences. So I will gladly appease the Anti-Ottoman Association and thus make my evangelicals happier by rivaling them. Rivaling a country also gives you influence, or as I call them, doves. We got a lot of doves for that, which we can then spend on befriending more countries, like France and Britain. I gotta stay on good terms with Britain, because they're going to be giving me Oregon and Washington State. If I'm friendly enough with them, and I do some other quests that we will be doing. Yeah, they declared a war with no army just because they got angry enough. Real countries don't do that, but decentralized nations, it calls them, will do that. Which is just any part of the world is hollow looking. Where it's like, it's a decentralized power. There's a culture there, there's people in groups living there, but they don't have what you would call a developed government. You know, they're not industrialized on any level. Okay, we can boost the liberal movement for 2 years, their attraction, or we can hurt their attraction but increase their activism. I'm going to just boost them. The liberal movement's very popular in the United States. The liberal movement is literally just people who want voting rights regardless of what the power distribution is. So those are people who, like, it doesn't matter if they're like pro or anti-monarchy or whatever, they just want people to have strong voting rights. So the liberal movement's very popular in America, which starts off with the strongest voting rights in the game. Not the strongest that exists in the whole game, I mean it's the strongest that anyone starts with. We start with census suffrage. The strongest voting rights thing in the game is universal suffrage, which is one step better, but nobody in the game starts with the tech to get that. So we get that a little later. Oh, we successfully went into the study phase of Secret Police, and we instantly won the war because they literally did not have an army, so we just march in. What is our banked money? 4.5 mil. Okay, we need to be spending way more money then. We've already maxed out New York. We can probably just max out Pennsylvania. Yeah. So each one of these costs 2 infrastructure. This is going to cost me 10 infrastructure to do 5 realistically. It could cost a little more because they might get new urban centers with this as they urbanize, and urban centers also cost a little infrastructure, but that won't be enough infrastructure to cause any serious issues. So we're going to do that, and we're also going to queue up another railway at the top because that is 15 infrastructure. Is this still employing fine? Of course it is. I'm going to auto that as well, so that anytime this building is full on people and almost full on cash reserve as well, it will automatically queue up to build another one. It is not the it's not the most efficient way to do it, but it is a good idea for cutting down on the micromanagement of queues sometimes. You don't want to go heavy on auto building unless you have an unbelievable construction base to back that up. Can you buy Alaska if you befriend Russia? Yes. In fact, we are befriending Russia specifically for that reason. As long as Russia stays on bad terms with Britain, which it looks like right now they're at war with Britain. I'm seeing a glowing border here, which tells me they're probably at war. If I look at this. Yes, they are! Ah, you see, okay. Every game you see this happen a lot. The Ottomans and the Egyptians will go to war with each other a lot, even though Egypt is a subject of the Ottoman Empire. They tend to go to war against each other several times throughout a game. Egypt is trying to take this whole bit of the Middle East. Or sorry, the Ottomans are trying to take this bit of the Middle East here that Egypt has. And Egypt is usually trying to break free and become an independent country. I find this patch is in favor of the Turks, because Britain basically always sides with them, and Russia basically always sides with Egypt. Britain is usually in a better position to win that war on the current patch. But it doesn't always go that way. You know, sometimes other people jump in and things get wacky. France jumps in, that can really throw a curveball because they have a really dangerous army at the start of the game and a pretty sizable navy, although nobody's starting navy compares to Great Britain's. So the biggest consequence of this war is probably just going to be that Austria and Russia are at war with Britain for a little while. You know, this is more than anything a proxy war. Britain could lose, but I still think they're more likely to win, and thus the Turks are likely to win that one. War, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. A song I can't remember the name of. I'm fairly certain that song is just called War, isn't it? Or it's called What Is It Good For? It's one of the two. Hi, Rocky. How's it going? Sorry, Rocky just came in and said hi. I don't think he needs more food. I fed him not long ago, but it's possible that he absolutely devoured it, so I will be checking his food shortly. Okay, so I'm doing heavy wood focus, or hardwood focus there. Hold on, have I already done my wood situation? I did, where I switch it all to softwood and then manually put a few on focused hardwood, which is the most efficient way to do it. The middle one, hardwood production, is the least efficient. Sometimes you don't need a whole lot of hardwood, and that is the right one to choose, but generally, you want to either prioritize softwood or focused hardwood, because you're getting less of both total on hardwood production. It's just a less efficient PM. Now, ideally, we want to be going hardwood production on the American chestnut forest tiles, because they give 25% hardwood output. That's worth pointing out that is output, not throughput, which is what most tiles have. You know, you look at Russia, they have a lot of logging industry throughput, which is really good. But we have output, which is even better because it doesn't require any extra input resources. We don't use extra tools. We don't use extra labor. We're generating 25% more hardwood out of the exact same input. That is straight profit margins. Meaning that America is probably the best hardwood producer in the entire game, or at least the highest potential. Pinot and Porygon 2 is my favorite Pokemon of all time. Oh, that's a pretty cool Pokemon. I like Porygon and Porygon 2, and the crazy one. Watch you play US, and I want to continually chant, USA, USA, USA. Next time I go to the United States, of which I haven't been since I was a small child, I want to get a USA chant going. I feel like that's like the greatest advantage of living in the United States. Like, ignore the whole great standard of living and all that crap. Yada, yada, yada. The real reason why, the real benefit of living in America is I like to think you're probably always within walking distance of being able to start a USA chant and have it catch on. And I think that there's something wonderful about that. You can walk somewhere where you could get a USA chant going. You can't do that in Canada. Okay, you can see here crazy potential earnings on some logging camps. Now, you gotta remember, this is way higher than it looks. Hi, Rocky. This is way higher than it looks, okay? So, a logging camp, you can see the cost down here, costs 200 construction. This is the cheapest straight economy building. There's a few buildings that cost 100, but those are like construction sectors and government admin, stuff like that. These are buildings that you're employing people to make a resource and make money. Logging camps are incredibly, incredibly efficient for that. Fishing wharfs are also just as efficient in that they're cheap, but they don't make you as much money. They are a great building, they just don't make as much money. Logging is really fundamental. You'll notice that some of these make way less money than others. That's probably that some of them are on hardwood, and we don't need as much hardwood, whereas our regular wood price has gotten too high. We can very, very quickly employ people in a lot of these buildings if we want to, and we do want to, because the return on investment in a lot of that is very high. You'll notice I'm putting 1 in a lot of places that have none. And my logic behind that is it's going to take a while to employ them up from nothing to full, and they're going to need some time to build up a cash reserve. Later in the future, I'm going to be able to auto a lot of those. But for now, I just want to get one in a few of these so that they're prepared for later when I'm going to spam them. You like wheat and grocery trade? Groceries were always kind of a weak resource. This patch, groceries became an incredibly powerful resource. It is very common that the first company you take when you can take a company is the generic groceries company. It's incredibly powerful. Gourmet groceries, which it can unlock, is also very powerful. And the prestige bonus of 5% more birth rate is one of the strongest prestige bonuses in the whole game. Bonus points also to the generic paper company. Craft paper is very OP this patch. Now that I have explained that, I will be back in 5 minutes because I think a certain Rocky boy wants some food. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, boys just needed to be fed. They're all good. Okay, let's keep going. Now, where are we on iron production? We are the #1 iron producer in the world by a pretty hefty margin here. Prussia's second place, which is pretty typical for this early in the game, that Prussia and Britain are competing for iron output. Now, I'm guessing I'm not coal. Yeah, I'm 4th place for coal. No one can compare to Britain's early coal production. They just start with a lot more coal mines than anyone else. Although we have a lot of potential for that. A lot of countries have a lot of potential for that. I just saw the news ticker at the bottom. Check it out. We hit full prosperity on the tool workshop. Now, it's starting to go down a little bit, but that's okay. As long as it doesn't go below -70. We hit the top, so we got our bonus, which is 5% manufacturing industries throughput. That's a 5% throughput bonus to every single building that shows up in the urban buildings list here. Like, does it affect this? Okay, not every single one. Yeah, it doesn't affect an urban center itself, but things you build, you know, a tools workshop. You can see it's getting an extra 5% from the Combine of Metalworks. Large number of Greek people from the Ottoman Empire moving to Arkansas. Okay, okay. I understand them fleeing Turkey. That makes sense. Are your cats particularly active? Oh, they're pretty active, yeah. Secret police! Okay. So we are going to be using this for stability in our country. We will want to move to guaranteed liberties at some point because it's a very strong security law. But for now, we can make use of a secret police. You can see here in our institutions, we could get it up to a maximum of level 4 currently, although we need a lot more bureaucracy. Right now, it's 150 bureaucracy per level of an institution, although that'll go up as we have higher population and we incorporate more lands, which, do we have any more to incorporate right now? No, we're working on all the ones that are currently valid. Okay. Okay. So the advantage to bumping up levels here is that we have less chance of revolts and revolutions, and that if we want to suppress a political movement, we can suppress it a lot harder. The problem is we're also lowering political movement activism. That can be a double-edged sword. On one hand, it keeps your country more stable, but on the other hand, you could be trying to get activism for a political group, and this could stifle it. That's less of a problem in a very democratic country like the United States, so I think that we can afford to bump up secret police, but that's just something to keep in mind, that there are little drawbacks to it. Okay, we can't go universal suffrage yet because right now the only people in our country that would support it are the yeoman farmers. Yeah. Not that we urgently need it right now anyway, but obviously we do want to switch to it at some point. The main benefit that I care about over it is we're getting rid of government clout really mattering all that much and making votes more important. Increases vote strength. But also, the wealth threshold is 15 plus for census suffrage. So you're only voting if you have an SOL or wealth value of 15 or higher. If we ever want the trade union to matter beyond piggybacking off of a bigger, more successful party, we're probably going to want universal suffrage, because that's what's going to allow even the poorest of people a vote. And so things like the trade union will start to have more of a say. We want the trade union at some point because the trade union helps us do things like labor rights, children's rights, welfare, stuff like that. They're not entirely good. There's economic laws they tend to fight against that I would like to have. But generally, there's an era of the game where you need the trade union's help to pass a few laws you really like. Like, if you missed out on getting public healthcare back when the religious would support it, then you're probably going to have to get it through the trade union. And that's a shame because public health insurance is very powerful. You never want to go charity hospital because it's a weak version of it. But more importantly, the religious really like charity hospitals. You don't want that because the religious also like public healthcare, but they like charity hospitals more. So if you go from no healthcare to public, the religious will help you. But if you went no healthcare then charity, the religious will fight against you going public. So it's better to go from no healthcare to public health insurance because public health insurance is very early in the game anyway. It's a tier 2 society. We're researching it right now. It's just pharmaceuticals. Could you play as Vatican? Yes, you can. It's right here, is the Papal States. They are a theocracy, one of the few at the beginning of the game. And often, I find they end up becoming a monarchy, which makes them become the Roman Empire if they do not have voting laws. If they do have voting laws, then they become the Roman Republic. They also changed to a nice Roman red. They changed the flag. It's very cool. Anytime a country changes government types, it'll generate a new flag that kind of suits it. The Sioux people of Sioux, Minnesota rely on bison for their basic needs. We can either slaughter the bison, which will make the Sioux less happy, but it'll increase our growth speed in Minnesota, or we could protect them. It'll make our farmers in Minnesota a little more radical, but it decreases tension between us and the Great Sioux Nation. Well, I don't care about tension between me and the Great Sioux Nation. We already have investment rights in them, or rather colonization rights, because we beat them in a war. So I'm just taking colony growth speed. That's basically always the right decision there. You'll notice we have a bar completing for precision tools. This is because our tool company became prosperous, and we're in the top 3 production of the world for tools. If we can maintain this for 36 total months, doesn't have to be consecutive, then we unlock precision tools, which is our first prosperity good. Prosperity good? Prestige good. Which gives throughput bonuses to buildings it's used in and sells better. Precision Tools is the main reason why I took that company. Precision Tools is a very powerful prestige good for industrializing a nation. You better take it earlier rather than later, although it's great the whole game. FBI created the same day Lincoln was assassinated. I don't know if that's true. I haven't got a clue. I don't know the origin of the FBI. We don't have that here in Canada. We have an equivalent other company that most Canadians don't know the name of, and I'm not remembering off the top of my head. It's like a Homeland Security kind of thing. Okay, we are starting to make money again, which I do not like. I want to be losing money. I know that sounds silly, but it's true. What we're going to do here is we're going to look at our map here of places that produce iron. Generally, the first places I want to put construction are places where we're going to be making a lot of iron, because then we can keep the local costs for the construction just a little bit cheaper. Construction everywhere helps your actual building anywhere. Does that make sense? It doesn't matter if all the construction sectors in the country are in New York and I'm building in California, I still get all of that construction. But if I were building the buildings in New York, where the construction is, I get a little bit of a throughput bonus, which essentially gives you a discount on building there. So construction anywhere is great. I could construct only in places with iron if I wanted, and then the construction would still help me build in other places in general. So that is why those places take priority. But at some point, having construction sectors all over the United States is a perfectly fine decision. Can you play as Native Americans and retake America in this game? There's an achievement for that. You have to start as the Indian Territory, because they're the only native territory that is actually a centralized power. They are an unrecognized power, because they are very insignificant. But yes, you technically could. They're Cherokee and Sioux. Okay. So I'm going to queue up just a little bit more construction. I want West Virginia as well. I can do a little bit up here, but I think that's lower priority. Kentucky is one of the best provinces in the entire game. Why? Because it has a 140 size coal mine. It's only got 2 by default, but it has the highest maximum coal of any one location in the game, if I remember right, plus a 10% coal mine throughput bonus. And it has the hardwood bonus and a little bit of extra infrastructure for the Ohio River. Kentucky has incredible potential as a coal market. And coal is a magical, magical resource. You'll see this on any time lapse of productions of resources over the course of a game on the current patch of Viki. But coal is kind of magical. If I open up artillery, the predicted earnings of an artillery foundry is in the negatives. It's not good at all because it thinks if I fully employed at this place, it's not even going to make a profit. You know, maybe it can make a profit if it's half employed and it's going to be a small profit. If I do tools, some of these tools would make a little bit of money, but a lot wouldn't because there just isn't a whole lot of tool demand in comparison to how many tools we already have in the market, you know? Coal is kind of magical. Not only does it get used as a resource in all of our mines, and thus, you know, building more mines will create more coal demand, and it also becomes a demand in many of our industrial places, it's also a pop need. Populations will buy coal to heat their homes. If we look in here, our production and our consumption, we look at the American market for coal. Sell orders, buy orders. Who's selling coal in our country? Coal mines. Exactly 1,000 of it. Who's buying it? Well, the top one is our iron mines are buying a lot of coal, but the next highest is pop need. You see laborers, slaves, farmers, clerks, everybody in the country is using some amount of coal to heat their homes. More so, they're probably using wood this early, but we can move them to using more and more coal. This means when I open the coal mines here, and I hover over, yeah, that's a predicted earnings of an extra 1,500 per week, which is good. That is quite good. But it's more than that, because as the coal comes in and the demand goes, the demand gets met, because there's more sell orders of coal in the market, the pop demand will also go up. Pop demand is not based on price, it's based on supply. Supply drives demand. So if you have a hefty supply of coal and the price gets depressed because of that, your coal prices go down, the coal prices are going to pretty quickly start climbing back up because as there's an overabundance of coal in the market, people will start buying more coal to heat their homes and their standard of living will go up because they're now having an easier time affording having heated homes, and thus they have more spendable cash to spend on other things that are also increasing their standard of living. And anytime your people are spending more money, you as the government are making more money because you are making tax money. You think Kentucky would be good for alcohol production? I mean, you could use it for that. There's no reason why it would be bad at it. Oh, hi, Cebu. Cebu, do you need lap time? Hi. Yeah, you really want to get my attention. Okay, Cebu's getting lap time. So coal is kind of a magical resource in that you don't think of it as a consumer good, you know, like clothing, where you're aware that as your clothing price goes down, more people buy clothing, and thus the demand is higher than it looks. Come on. Sorry, I'm also talking to my cat at the same time. Oh, Cebu's on my lap now. There you go. Hey, Booney. How's it going? So although you would assume that is how it works with groceries or clothing or furniture, and that is how it works. It also works that way with coal. And there are so many buildings that use coal, and every country uses so much coal, and more and more as the game goes on, that coal is an unbelievably reliable resource to spam. If you're looking for like a cash product to spam, coal. Because you're also going to be making iron demand, steel demand, wood demand, because it needs tools. Tools need wood. It needs steel. Steel needs more coal and iron. You're creating demand for all kinds of other industrial things, which will then create money. You want to create demand so that you can fulfill the demand and make that money. I agree. Cebu's the best resource in the game. Okay, Noonie, I'm going to have to reach around you here to do some construction. Okay, so all of that. Noonie, don't stand on the keyboard. I'm going to queue up a little bit more in Kentucky. There you go. Good boy. He's getting ready to sit down. He's considering it. Do you think he'll ever play the Bard's Tale original or the one later? And I don't know. I don't know. A cool game, but I don't think I've ever actually played it myself. I just know the history of it. Okay. Let's run the clock a little bit more here. And we're going to queue up a lot more construction very shortly because we're like just about to run out again of our queue. What's private queue building? A lot of tools. Okay, now this is cool. So we're looking at the private queue here, right? This is what the citizens of the country are building with this investment pool money. You can see here, this is the company headquarters of the tool company building a lot of these. Now, if we hovered over, let's say this one. This is a financial district is buying it, so it's a normal price. You can see that there is no bonus to construction efficiency in Indiana there. The Hoosiers don't have any bonus. But because a company is building this tool workshop, they have hefty construction bonuses. You can see there's a 16% here that is just from the road maintenance of New York and the construction sectors of New York. Then you have another 65 here, base value 50 because I have a company, extra 16 because I'm in the top 10 of prestige rankings for that company. Damn. That's crazy. So they get a huge bonus on it. So what's happening here is it's taking 13.8 construction per turn to build this at the regular speed rather than the 25 it should be taking. And all the extra construction pours into other things being built. And a lot of these are being built by companies and thus getting a hefty bonus for it. So we are building lots in the private queue. It is fantastic. I love it. Would be cool if lumber or furniture factories could produce charcoal as a byproduct. Oh, you mean like coal burning or charcoal making, rather. I mean, that was a little bit more of an old world thing by this point. But it could be cool. I feel like it'd get outclassed very early is the thing. You know, this is really the age of coal mines. You've been mining coal since you were 19. Pretty good money-making business, I'd imagine. I mean, coal still makes great money. Obviously, it was extra important in these days when we didn't have other ways to generate power so easily. But industrial-grade materials. Now, this is a quest you're going to get every once in a while as your steel gets expensive. We can either mildly piss off the industrialists, or we can take a quest to set up steel imports. Now, I don't want to import steel. I want to be a steel exporter. Right now, we're making less steel than we're using. Now, that doesn't mean we have a shortage. You only have a shortage when our price is 29% because of having more buys than sells. At 75 is when you straight up have shortages. But like 75, you never want your price to get that bad anyway. But what this does mean is we have potential right now to make more money in steel. And right now, we're the top steel producer in the world. Nobody's using more steel than us. And that is because of our tools. We're using steel tools, and our tool workshops are going crazy right now. So obviously, steel demand has risen. What we're going to do here is queue up a steel mill at the top. We're still using a blister steel process, which is the worst PM or production method for steel. It's awful. It has a hard time staying profitable. So what we're going to do here is queue up... Oh no, we're already spreading Bessemer process, which is the next one. Never mind. We don't need to queue that up then. We're going to get that automatically after not too long. I'm going to agree to import steel, and I will put a light subvention on import so that we're willing to pay money out of pocket as the government to lower the price of importing a little bit of steel. I'm doing that just to complete the quest. I don't actually care about that. I would rather produce my own steel, which we're doing. And then I will also queue up in Pennsylvania. What have we got here for... Right, we haven't made our power block yet. Well, we're about to hit 6 years in. I think we're about ready to start the power block. The Great Powers like me, right? Generally. Yeah, they generally have a high opinion of me. I have a lot of doves. We're going to form the power block. All right, everybody. Start coming up with names for our power block. We are going to make a trade league because we can only pick between trade league and ideological union as the United States. We can't be a sovereign empire. We're not an empire. We don't have a monarchy. So we're going to be a trade league, which is a very powerful one. Our unity of our trade league is entirely based around a strong economy, essentially. For our first mandate, I always go external trade. It's generally stronger than internal. First level of it, all block members get 25% more trade capacity and trade advantage. That's pretty strong. As we get to the next level, we get influential trade centers, which means that trade centers give us doves. Used to be migration attraction, now it's doves. It's not huge, but it is nice in a very large, powerful country. And on the third level, this is the more important one, ignores trade advantage penalty from interests. Essentially, we have no detriment to trading with every single country on Earth, even if we don't have a selected interest in the area. That makes your whole market much more efficient at trading, and thus you're going to get better prices in the whole market. It's great. We're going to be taking that. Internal trade is more about having high tariffs and making an internal trade block that mostly trades with each other. And there's some company bonuses, and it's all right, but it's just generally not as strong as external. The Wall Street connection. Team America. Oh, bye, Noonie. Okay. We can do our logo while I wait. The logo is almost always hideous. This is the default logo where it's just level 1 everything. First of all, we gotta change some of this up. This is so busy looking. I usually get rid of the side plate things. I find it usually makes it look way too busy. We don't need twin dragons on the top. Maybe a nice eagle. The background is like, looks like a Japanese depiction of waves. I'd rather like something floral. I don't know. That's kind of nice. Nothing really looks like it would suit America, to be honest. Most things look like they'd suit a kingdom, but I'll go with this one. That's kind of a nice pattern. The World Trade Center. I feel like that would just make it doomed. Shield pattern, yeah. None of these look very American, do they? I feel like the colors always feel like they're a little off. Like, should this blue be a lot deeper like that? And shouldn't there be some red in here, you know? Like a nice deep red? A little more like that, but then even that looks kind of British, doesn't it? Also, that red should be a little less deep. There we go. The blue is still about right. Yeah, that blue looks about right to me. Ooh, the white looks so cheap. I don't like that. Fiery. Kind of like this one. Show that we're a trade league. Or maybe this one. Globe. I'll keep with the globe. I like that. Twin Dragons, Bimmy and Jimmy. I know your references. That's Double Dragon 2. One of my favorite typos ever. Planes don't exist yet? You'll be fine. Planes do exist by the end of this game. Alright, there's no way to make this not hideous, is there? This is my struggle. This is my curse. We're gonna have a hideous logo. It is what it is. Now, the statues can be fucking insane. You know, it can be Egyptian obelisk on a fountain holding a parasol with a walking cane at the bottom. That's fucking insane. You can have an angel with a backpack and an eagle and a shield in a water park. I could have a dragon holding the sun and a book and a sickle in its mouth. Like, you can make some very stupid things. It's great. I think I want the elephant. I think I want a top hat. Yeah, I want a top hat. He's holding a rifle. He's got a big royal cape. And he's on a pedestal. I like it. It's the great elephant of America. Surrealism before it was a thing, yeah. Okay, I think I'm happy with this. Now we just need a name for it. World Trade Center, Electric Avenue, Twin Towers. The Wall Street connection. Could even make it Dusty Roads to be clever. I do kind of like that. Biplanes can't melt steel beams. That's great. The elephant shall be named Dave? That's not fair. That's not a tree. We went bankrupt buying that statue. Big Leagues Trade? That sounds like a company. Big League Trade Inc. Alright. Now for forming that, we take a small relations hit to everyone else who's the leader of a power block, but that's okay, we can re-befriend them. We have a lot of doves, it's not a huge deal. And we're already working on befriending some of them, so yeah, we're all good. And now we will start getting mandates. The first one says 30 years. It's not actually going to take 30 years. We just got to get more prestige and cohesion and people in our trade block. This will take a little while to get rolling. But we're hoping to get trade block embassies in a lot of Latin America. Anyone who will accept it, I should probably send it to. If you'll just do investment rights, they'll do investment rights. If anyone wants both, they'll do both. I'm getting power block embassies in people because it increases the sway we have over someone and thus makes it easier to, you know, get them to actually join us in the block. We're sending out a bunch of these all at once so that when we unpause... There. When we unpause, hopefully a bunch of them will all say yes, even though we don't have enough doves for quite all of these. I'll have to mess around with the Brazil one more later. Power block embassy. Investment and power block. Love when they agree to both. Okay. Okay, we had quite a few people agreeing to stuff there. Cool. Is the Indian Territory automatically in? Yes. Does it help? Not really, because they're so insignificant. The only people automatically in are our subject, so it's us, the Indian Territory, and Liberia. Liberia, if you don't know, is this little country right here in West Africa, which was a project by America way back in the day to give freed African slaves their own country over in Africa. Yeah, it didn't really work out. Liberia today is one of the most unstable governments in the world. Okay. Yep, vast majority of people are agreeing. We have a massive detriment of doves now, which hurts our prestige by 11%. But we can get more rivals. I will rival Spain, because I don't care about them and they can't do shit to me. So that helped a bit. I'll do Belgium. No, I want to get investment in Belgium, because they're so wealthy. Oh my god, and they'll just, like, fucking agree to it. Ooh, I need doves. Okay. Maybe I do rival France. I think I'm rivaling France. I'm doing it. There we go. That's worth it. Because if I can get really easy investment rates, what is this percent? That's an 85? I'll just take that chance. Because investment rates in Belgium can be very powerful. They're one of the most industrialized nations in the world. Okay, this is a common event when you have a high SOL, standard of living, in a place, like I have in New York. We can either let the upper and middle class celebrate, and we get more loyalists, or I can get way more loyalists, but for 10 years they expect a higher minimum standard of living, which in France, or in New York, I can absolutely achieve that. So I will say the party never ends. Marble walls, shimmering stone, the noise of people coming and going brings the city back to life when we didn't even know it was dead. Tall buildings cover the sunset, kids play with bricks, smoke blends with the clouds, and distant bells announce the next train. Progress is coming. Exile at the gates. This is where you can get a random agitator. This guy is a Democrat trade unionist. He does not support any political movement yet. We can either say no and slightly piss off the industrialists. I'm going to just say yes, because I see no harm in having him here, although he'll probably do almost nothing. He's a Democrat. We're already a pretty hardcore democracy. He's just preaching to the choir. You know, there's nothing he's coming here and saying that the people here don't already believe. So he might end up leaving very quickly because he doesn't have anything to agitate for. Dissatisfaction with the lack of progress on abolition, John Brown began drawing on every anti-slavery gunman to aid slaves fleeing their owners. We can... let him walk with God's blessing. He appears... who is he? He's an abolitionist evangelical. Okay, he supports the abolitionist movement. I like that. This gains him a little popularity. Just a little. Or I can do this, where the slaves get more radical, and it pisses off the southern plantation owners. I am going to go with the top one. I don't want to piss off the southern plantation owners too heavily, because I rely on them being somewhat happy to actually change laws that they don't like. Like, they're quite happy right now, and I want to change laws that they're not going to be happy about the changes, so I want them to be happy so that they don't just revolt. If I could get them even happier, that would be sweet. I have a somewhat passable chance of going professional army, and I do want to at some point. But I need a more legit government, really, before I want to go heavy into that. Disreputable bookkeeper. I can gain a little bit of legitimacy and hurt the Anti-Prussian League, which will slightly hurt appeasement of the intelligentsia and the industrialists. Both of them already like me quite a bit. Or at least the intelligentsia don't hate me. This one would make the industrialists a little happier. Incredibly slight amount of loyalists. It's District of Columbia, so it means basically nothing. I think I'm taking the legitimacy. So that if we take another dip in legitimacy, it's not an immediate crisis. Okay, and we seriously need to queue up construction even more. Yeah, that's employing up, and it's like not close. I need to be losing way more money. So let's... What's the next big place I'm going to spam this in? West Virginia? No, it's too low in pop. I think it is Kentucky that I'm going to do next. It'd be too much easy money. And I'm not just talking about Jason Jett. Okay, 5 new ones. I got a few things here. We already have a railway queued up from the private queue, I'm guessing. I'm going to get a local tools workshop, because that is obviously going to make a good profit there. Same with a steel mill. In the long run, those are going to do great. Then I will queue up a bunch of coal and a little bit of iron. Seminole War is complete. We have finished migrating people out of Florida, and we can now incorporate Florida. So we're now on the path to incorporating it. I also saw that our industrialists are now powerful, because their clout is very high. They're the highest clout people in the whole country, aside from the southern planters. They're pretty equal with them. We want to get the industrialists more powerful. Britain is asking for investment rates for nothing in return. They can fuck right off. They called that the British-American Treaty of Transit, Commerce, and Friendship. Are you kidding me? That is so one-sided. Assholes. Harvest conditions, optimal sunlight, affecting 17 states. So some places will have slightly better agriculture. Doesn't really mean much. Okay, this rifling allows us to make rifles rather than muskets, which lets us move from using iron to using steel. Not only do we more efficiently produce a lot more guns for cheaper now, but we are increasing the steel demand rather than just directly iron. That's great, because I want steel demand. I want a lot of profitable steel mills. And right now, steel is very expensive. I'm going to bump more of those steel mills to the top of the list to help fix that in the short term. We finished migrating people out of Florida as a hell of a statement out of context. Yeah. Okay, the Lee & Wilson Company will now produce Sea Island cotton. So this is a company that we got very early, and I told you is very good. Because this is a prestige good that is not that is a unique one to only one country, it has unlocked the moment that we hit our prosperity bonus, rather than needing to be a top supplier for 3 years. Although we probably are still a top fabric supplier. If we tag fabric. We are the number 3 producer in the world of fabric. Okay. We are now producing Sea Island cotton, though. Now this is very cool. If we look at here, you can see this percentage of it. 16% of our market's fabric is Sea Island cotton. More of it will be as we own more buildings, as this company owns more buildings that produce the fabric. But The fabric not only sells better and increases SOL of people using it more, but if we look at a textile mill, you can see this place is getting 1% more throughput bonus because 6% of the goods it uses in its building are a prestige good. So 6% of its total inputs is this Sea Island cotton. As that number goes up, it will get more bonus. The maximum is 20. 20 would be if it's using only Sea Island cotton and it uses no other resources for anything. So that's unachievable. But if you had something that only has one input, let's say a logging camp where the only input is tools, then when I get precision tools, that's an immediate 20% throughput to every logging camp in the whole country. And I already showed you guys earlier that logging is one of the most profitable buildings in the early game. We can look at these logging camps and we can see that's not just 1,500 for a building. That's 1,500 for a 200 construction building. That's the equivalent of if I clicked on coal mine and it said 3,000. That is so powerful. That's crazy strong. In fact, Kentucky, we want to really make you some money. So we are going to... I just noticed that railways are not subsidized. We're going to subsidize them. We're going to privatize them so we can sell them to the private market. And we're going to go wooden passenger carriages so that they produce more transportation to sell to the people. And thus they'll make a little more money and I don't need to subsidize them very hard. Precision Tools is very strong. It's why it's such a popular company despite being a generic company. A lot of the generic companies that any country can pick are very powerful, and you should not ignore them just because you could be picking country-specific companies. Okay, the Cherokee leaving Tennessee, just like before, I'm going to pay $2,000 a week to make it so less of them die. We can invite someone to the power block. El Salvador will join immediately. We're going to do that. It is a very small, insignificant country, but it still has value. Now, because we're a trade league and they just joined us, that means that they're part of our market. If we look at the market view, El Salvador is now part of the American market. In fact, we can go members here and we can see El Salvador is making up... Ooh, does it not say the percent anymore? You used to be able to hover over here and it would say what percent of your market they are. Maybe there's a new place they put that and I don't know where it is this patch. Huh. Shame. So after this little bit of spam here, what I'm going to do is another 2 railways to future-proof this a little bit. And then we're going to spam it all 17. We already have 1, but total of all 17 logging camps there and really get some wealth in Kentucky. Labor movement just finished spreading. Now, all of the country expects a higher standard of living based on literacy now because of this tech. So that can cause problems, but more importantly, this unlocks Socialist Party of America. And an invisible thing it does is by unlocking this, it gets rid of some detriment. Normally, the trade union barely exists at the start of the game for most countries. And that is because before you have labor movement and socialism, it has a minus 50% to the attraction of that interest group. Once you have labor movement, 25% of that detriment is taken off. Once you get socialism, the other 25% is removed. So labor movement is the first step in getting our trade unions to start to get politically aware. Okay. Modernizing the arsenal. This is our this is a pop-up that we get for switching to rifles over muskets and having a building with, I think it's a arms industry, either size 3 or 5, that is fully profitable and employed. We get to pick a bonus. Even from 1,000 yards, you can still take the shot. Forward artillery positions can be harassed, bayonet charges stopped before they've even commenced. The advantages are innumerable. Unless we develop sufficient manufacturing capabilities to produce these weapons, we're bound to face disaster at the battlefield. We can either take a huge migration bonus and a throughput bonus to artillery and arms, which is not that useful, or we can take a smaller bonus, but we get a lump sum of tech progress towards repeaters, which is the next gun tech after that, which is definitely what we're picking. Tech progress on repeaters. We also have the Brave Engineer. Railroad accident near New York, only narrowly avoided heavily facilities thanks to a quick thinking of the train's engineer who perished in the crash. Only a few people died, but the wreckage will still take time to clear. We'd either say, thank goodness for the quick thinking engineers, lose infrastructure for 5 years, really doesn't mean anything. Or we can also get some 5 years of attraction bonus on the trade union by saying railmen should get a song for dying that day, which we're going to do because, again, we want to get the trade union to start having a little bit of influence. We want them to be a player in our politics because they have some good bonuses if we can befriend them. You don't necessarily want to do everything that they do. If they end up becoming really, really socialist, then they will advocate for abominably stupid laws that are very bad for your economy and bad for, like, having democratic rights. But if you use them carefully in conjunction with other things, then it'll be okay. Okay, what is this? Building the perceived common enmity to Mexico, pro-British associations have some commonplace within the patriotic inclined Southern planters. Okay, so we could have them join that. Now, the pro-British association has got to be happy, right? We're pretty pro-British. No, they're neutral. Right now, the Anti-Ottoman Association is the only association that is very heavily appeased. Yeah, I'm fine with them joining the pro-British association. I'll encourage it even. I'm fine with that. Because it's something that's going to make the plantation owners happier, which means that I can pass more laws that they don't like without having them revolt. I want to strip away their power, but having them happy makes it much easier to strip away their power without them revolting. Pharmaceuticals. Now, I would really, 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 really like to get the religious in so I can get public health care early, but the religious are currently abolitionists, and so they're with the Whig Party. We need the Whigs to win an election, which I think they might win the next one. You'll see. You don't need democracy, you just need a union. Union bosses always listen and care about those they represent. You're absolutely right, I never saw it that way. I'm happy I've been enlightened. Bottom of the screen, labor movement has started. We now officially have a labor movement, so we can see here. They heavily endorse graduated tax, which I do want. They endorse interventionism, command economy, and cooperative ownership. Now, this is a double-edged sword. Interventionism, we're on it. It's a solid law. Command economy and cooperative ownership are generally not very good. They hate laissez-faire, which laissez-faire is a fantastic economic system in this game. It is very powerful, especially for a wealthy nation like the United States. I heavily recommend laissez-faire. It's not the end-all be-all like it used to be. It used to be hands down the most powerful in every situation until, like, unless you're like over $1 billion GDP late game min-maxing. Then there's arguments for, I think, command economy has a late, like, last 20 years of the game use. For the most part, laissez-faire is the strongest. It's been nerfed a little, but it's still the strongest, and they fucking hate it. So once they're powerful, it's basically not happening. They like welfare laws that are generally good. They like healthcare laws that are generally good. The only thing that they like that I don't like is some of their economic laws are shitty, and they will fight you on it, and it's really annoying. They're the least radical of the labor movements, though. Just the regular labor movement is mostly focused on just workers' like rights and healthcare and stuff. Steel import done. I'm going to get rid of the subvention because I don't want to pay for it. Looks like we weren't paying for it anyway, or else there would be sell orders from trade centers. Mexico embargoed me? Sure, I'll embargo you right back. I don't care. You need my trade more than I need your trade. Can you rejoin Britain? No. We could be very friendly, and we are very friendly. Long term, I could go to war with them. Make them lose Canada, maybe. That'd be a huge blow to their empire. Gold Rush. Now, we have a gold rush in Colorado. You do get quite a bit of gold mines in the United States over time. Now, you can either spread the word for more migration attraction, You can say mine all mine for less attraction, but more throughput on the gold field, which is essentially a free money modifier. Or you could say always spread the word or always mine, because you're going to get this event several times. I go always mine in most instances. I would rather the straight money that I can put back into construction, rather than some migration attraction, which, although migration attraction is very important, I don't need those fleeting bits of migration attraction you get from that. I need something a little more stable than that. So I would rather take the money that I can for sure invest back into better jobs for my people. Pressing issue. Oh, we have an election starting. The Whig Party is winning by quite a bit so far. Election ongoing has drawn attention to the platforms of the various contending parties across the United States of America. The electorate debates which party is worth trusting in the next term in government. This is a new event that they just added this patch that I really like because it's very Victoria 2, where you get to simply pick any party from all of the parties that are running and give them a bunch of momentum. This was a very common event you got during elections in the newspaper in Victoria 2 that I thought was really good for making it so that you have a little bit more sway over being democratic. So it gives you a little bit of an advantage to being democratic because democratic laws are generally quite good. And also because they needed to counterbalance how being an autocracy got buffed a lot because authority is more powerful than it used to be this patch. Now that you can use it in companies. So there's more incentive to having high authority and thus staying as like an autocracy or an oligarchy or something like that. So this event is to help make democracies just a little stronger, to help them keep pace now that things have been rebalanced. The first thing I take into account is the safety of my investments. If a party would represent chaos, I may safely discount it. The stockbroker tapped his cigar on the rim of the ashtray and continued. The journalist took notes as he spoke. How will the incoming government's tariff policy affect my needed imports? Do they wish to impose taxes which may spur uncertainty? Do they wish to embark upon military adventures? Would these adventures be profitable, or would they be ruinous? There's much to consider. I love reading these events. They're so well written, and it's so easy to skip over them, but they are well written. I quite like them. I'm going to take the electorate trusts the Whig Party's policy because I really would like the Whig Party to win in a landslide here. I want a hefty victory for the Whig Party here because I know I could form a very high legitimacy government with them. And more importantly, not only do I like most of what these guys represent, but we would also be getting the evangelicals in who are on the verge of being marginalized. They're so weak. The religious are not a very powerful faction here because we have separation of church and state. I want them in because they can help me pass public health care and public health insurance. And I really want public health insurance before the evangelicals become irrelevant, because then there's going to be an awkward phase where for a while the evangelicals are irrelevant, but the trade union isn't powerful enough to help me get public health insurance. All of a sudden, Karl Marx wins. Karl Marx is a character in the game, and I've seen him be elected the President of the United States of America. I've also seen him be the King of England before. Alt history stuff in this game is very fun. If I remember right, the first country in the world to research socialism will always spawn Karl Marx. And you can pick whether he stays in the country or whether you give him the boot. Efforts to move the Cherokee from the eastern lands have led to the deaths of many over their overland march westward. Well, I paid money to make it happen less, so it's what it is. Whilst campaigning for the Whig Party in the turmoil-racked District of Columbia, John Brown has been attacked and brutally beaten by a group of unknown assailants. When the crowd cleared and the screaming stopped, all that was left in the street was his prostrate form, bruised, cut, and barely recognizable as the Titan he had represented not 5 minutes before. Give him rest, he becomes scarred, which is a small popularity bonus and health hit, but it hurts them in the election. I can get him back on the trail right away where he's wounded, which lowers his health way more, but it'll help him in the election. Or, I know who did it, it was us. Hurts him in the election, and he becomes shell-shocked, where he's a shell of his former self because he's got PTSD. We're gonna take get back on the trail right away. Yes, John Brown may die from this, but like, look, the evangelicals barely exist anymore. The one who's in charge already is an abolitionist, and so is he, so we don't need him that bad. I just want them to do well in this election. So there we go. That got some more momentum. Right now, 77% of the electorate who is currently eligible to vote and interested in voting is likely going to go Whig Party. For anyone who doesn't know, the Whig Party is the party that later reformed and became the Republican Party. And as I'm sure you could fucking guess, the Democratic Party is the one that became the modern-day Democrats. Same party. Okay, we have another event here. Gesture of solidarity with the Whig Party. Arthur Hatch has encouraged his supporters to vote. This is that Democratic trade union agitator that we just got. We can either have them boost the Whig Party 20% and also increase the people who become yeoman farmers, or we can just boost them in the election more. I'm going to boost them in the election more. I don't really want my rural folk to be super strong. They're fickle. They easily go pro-slavery, and they tend to like a lot of laws I don't like, so I don't want them to be overrepresented. Honduras wants to join the Big League Trade Incorporated. I will accept that. So Honduras has joined our little trade league here. You can see our leaders here. Some much more famous than others. I'm so entertained by you playing this game. Thank you, Bun. I appreciate that. How you been, by the way? I feel like we haven't caught up in a couple streams. Whistle Stop Tour. Winfield Scott intends to travel across Rhode Island by train to campaign for the Democratic Party. That's a small place you picked to go by train, but all right, brother. All I intend to do is present myself to the people. I'm just a simple man trying to get our party's message out by the best means available. So there's a few different options on this one you can do. We can say campaigning by rail is smart. It'll hurt the throughput a little bit, but it'll increase their momentum in the election. Or we can say the fate of the nation depends on the trains running on time. That increases throughput and helps them even more in the momentum game. And you can only do that if the party who's got the event is in power, which the Democrats are in power right now. Can you have a woman leader? Yes, but you need to have women's suffrage first. Which we need to get farther down the tech tree for that to be available. Right now, our women's rights are actually very rudimentary. We have legal guardianship, which is the worst women's rights. It's 5% more birth rate, which is very powerful. Don't get me wrong. Birth rate's a very strong modifier in this game. But women are under the legal guardianship of men and enjoy very few rights. Basically what that means is a woman has the same rights as a child. In terms of the father essentially owns them until their new husband owns them. Old school style. Funnily enough, many countries around the world already have propertied women, which is not women are property. It means women can own property. It's the beginning of them having some real proper rights. Places like Russia already have propertied women, and yet we don't. But Russia is behind us, is basically in the fucking Stone Age in every other direction, so... You know, women in America still have a way better life than women in Russia at this point. You're a woman in Russia, you're probably starving to death on a subsistence farm. You're a woman in America, and there's a pretty good chance that even if it's legal guardianship, you're still living a pretty good life. But this increases workforce ratio 5%, which is very valuable. Workforce ratio means that when it generates a family, what percentage of that family can go out and earn money in a job? Because whatever percentage isn't working is a dependent, and they're wasting money, essentially. So you want a high workforce ratio, because less money is wasted, more money is brought into people, and you've got more people who are eligible for employment. So propertied women increase the workforce ratio because more women can work more jobs. Yeah, in Russia, they're all equal because they're all equally dirt poor. So I'm going to teach you a little trick. This is a very common trick in Victoria that I think is very valuable. Playing Russia in both Victoria games is painful. Oh no, I find especially in Victoria 3, I think Russia's one of the funnest countries in the game. Anyway. We have an election in 66 days. This event times out and will auto-pick the thing with the check mark. in 79 days. I don't want to empower the Democratic Party, so I will simply ignore this event and not do it, because the election will happen before this happens, and when the election happens, this will be invalid. And so, we don't empower the Democrats. Okay, we blew through that production so unbelievably fast, which is kind of what I expected. Look at how quickly we de-peasanted. There was like 100,000 peasants here not long ago. We have massively decreased it because every one of these logging camps employs 5,000 people. So already we have radically changed the population of Kentucky, the workforce of Kentucky. You can see here, if we look at the breakdowns here of the charts by professions, we can see that the highest percentage of people here are laborers, although there's also a big chunk of slaves. Laborers and slaves put together make up about half the population, or at least half the workforce of Kentucky. Peasants are below that, then farmers. Farmers at only 9%. Now, a farmer is someone who actually owns and runs the farm, not just a laborer on the farm. So a farmer is actually a pretty good gig. That is a landowner class. It's not like, they're not wealthy. They're not super big and rich or anything. They're not like an upper strata. But a farmer job is a good job. That's not like you're working on a subsistence farm. That's a peasant job. A farmer would be someone who runs on a proper wheat farm or ranch or something like that, actually uses modern methods, you know? Okay. Now, I don't want to invest too heavily in here. I know that they are getting... Well, they're not getting migration right now. They will get migration as these jobs crop up and people see opportunities there. But I understand that that's probably going to basically max out as I finish those places. So I think I want to go into another place here. I like Michigan. Not many people live there yet. But it's got potential because it has sulfur, and there aren't too many sulfur sources in the United States. This is a good place to produce fertilizer with the sulfur. I think I'm going to get one, even though we don't use much fertilizer yet. That'll be useful in the long run, so I want to get the business started. We've got the construction where I can make decisions like that. Pennsylvania's basically got no pop. New York still has lots of population. Okay, so what we're going to do is a railway, and we're going to build 18 fucking logging camps very quickly in succession. I have these on hardwood, so they're not going to make as much crazy money as the other ones. In fact, we're going to really depress hardwood prices. What I'm hoping is that through this trade center that I'm going to star so I can easily find it at the bottom of my list here, on my outliner, I want to really pump up exports. So we're going to have 9 new ones there. Right now, the biggest thing they're doing in New York here is they're selling tools worldwide. It's almost entirely selling tools with a little bit of buying clothing, like luxury clothing, coffee, liquor, meat, silk, a little bit of selling wine and lead, importing a little art, importing a little fish. But the biggest thing by far is they're selling their tools abroad because the tool headquarters is there and we have a lot of tool output there that isn't being used in the mines. Now that's great because those tools that we're selling abroad, what we're going to do is because we're making all these logging camps, we're going to instead sell less tools abroad. We're going to use more of those tools that we're selling to the logging camps. The logging camps will then make us money, and we can transition from selling so much tools to selling a whole lot of hardwood instead. We're just shifting the profits around from business to business here. So close to precision tools, I know, and once we get that, we're going to see wood skyrocket. I'm very excited. It's going to be like an overnight big change for our economy. Speaking of big changes in our economy, we need to start moving some of these things over to standardized filing system. This means we spend more paper, which is going to be a government expense, but it gets our bureaucracy back up. We don't like it below 0 because a below zero bureaucracy will give you tax waste, where people are being taxed, but not all that money is reaching the government. It's just wasted money. The American dream, dusty roads. We'd either pick 3 standard of living, but it also increases for even longer than that, their expected standard of living. I tend to go not all that glitters is gold, which is less standard of living, but also less minimum expected. So you get less disappointed people at the end. You like the music in this game? It's great. Also, by the way, I turned on some visual mods in between streams that I probably should have had on before I forgot about, like GDP ownership, so I can very easily see what percentage of my GDP I own and what percent we own overseas. Like this right here is all the GDP we own in foreign countries. You can see that the majority of it is in Argentina and Persia at the top, whereas the least is in Chile. We can also see it on our companies here. We have a regional HQ in Portugal, which means that our tool workshop has expanded into Portugal. And the other company has not expanded into any other countries yet. That doesn't mean that they don't own things there. They might own things there, but they don't own enough to have made a regional HQ. Bison hunting, always slaughter the bison. It's just worth it. Penis song when. There is a song in this game that chants penis. That is true. The election is done. Daniel Webster has come to an end. Cornelius Vanderbilt got elected. He is a historical figure for the industrialists. The Whig Party won with 80% of the vote. That is a landslide victory if I ever saw one. Now we are allowed to switch government. It is still not a legit government. It's an unacceptable government, which means that we still pass laws very slow. We got unlucky there, but still, we got the Whig Party in now at least. The new president has some bonuses to authority and to institution change speed, bureaucracy. A lot of bureaucracy bonuses, actually. And his bureaucrats have more political strength, but he also has expensive tastes. It's more prestige, but it's also tax waste. I don't like the tax waste. So what we're going to do here is we're going to turn on some bars here. This is a part of a mod of having an extra toolbar that I really like. I want this. This shows us how many unemployed people we have. These are people who aren't just peasants. They have no job at all. You want to keep an eye on that so it doesn't get too high. I also like this one, which is unrealized taxes. It lets you know how much tax waste is going on in the country, so you can keep tabs on it. Right now it's $4,500 worth, and it's just from the tax, the 5% we get from our leader. There's nothing we can do to fix that. And I also like market balance, which is just letting us know right now it's a negative market balance because we are buying much more internationally than we're selling. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I do want to be selling more than I'm buying at some point. So it's something to keep an eye on. Raising concerns. This got buffed recently. Used to be much smaller. The evangelicals want a +4 and the industrialists would get a -4, which I very much want to do. +4 would make the evangelicals very happy, and they would give me more company throughput bonus. Whereas a -4 to the industrialists, they would still be incredibly high. So I'm going to do that. The other one is we can weaken the evangelicals. That will probably make them marginalized, and I don't want to do that. So we are going to do that, which makes them much happier with us. And we got precision tools. There we go. So if we click on let's go with that Kentucky lumber camp. So as we pass a week here, we'll start making precision tools. Here we go. We've just started to produce them. Right now, it is 99% of the tools we produce are precision. It will probably take another week to update that, but we can see our throughput over the next week is going to go from 12% bonus to 31% bonus. There we go. They're now using a fraction of a tool that is a regular one and using almost entirely precision. And thus they are getting a 19% from 99% of their prestige goods being their inputs, which means wood just got an enormous boost. We just got a huge influx of wood through that. You can see the wood market price just took a big dip. We saw a huge dip in hardwood as well. We're probably going to be a big tool seller. In fact, yes, the largest buy orders of tools on our whole market is not our logging camps or our iron mines, although combined they're bigger. You can see here, the biggest single user of tools in our market is the New York Trade Center. The New York Trade Center is selling about 800 tools a week on the world market. And you can see they're selling to fucking everyone. If we look at this, here we go. This is the world market breakdown of tools. We are the only tool exporter on the planet. Every other country on this list is importing either a little bit or a lot of tools. And because we're the only exporter, everyone in the world who's buying tools on the world market is buying it from us. How do you use a fraction of a tool? I don't know. It's a mystery. Oh, invite to power block? Nicaragua. It's usually very easy to get Central American countries to join you. Oh, and we just got Bulgarians from Turkey moving in. You can see right here, Ottoman Bulgarian people are migrating to Pennsylvania, although they'll also move to neighboring states. You can see here we're getting like 5,000 people a week or so in Pennsylvania. That's awesome because Pennsylvania had run out of peasants. This will shore up the population again so that I can make more work there. We just needed a replacement handle. Yeah, an old leftover, I guess. Is it still that way? Did we still... Yeah, we're producing 3 tools that are not owned by the company, and we're producing 3,500 that are owned by the company. We have Albanians moving into Arkansas as well. This is pretty typical if the Ottoman Empire isn't doing so hot, although they're doing okay-ish. They're probably having severe standard of living issues, and also they have very strict citizenship laws, and yet they own so much of Europe. So they have a huge population of people that they don't culturally accept, that they oppress very heavily. Those people are very willing to mass migrate to countries with freer laws like ours. It's one of the big reasons why we want to get rid of slavery, because once we get rid of slavery, we can also make our citizenship laws better so we're more accepting of other cultures, and that'll make them more likely to move to us. And again, it's like I said in the first stream, population is king. Population wins you games. Bessemer process. This is, I believe we use double the iron and get double the steel out of our steel mills. No, you add 20 more iron, you get to the production method, you get 25 more steel, and you're not spending any extra coal. This is a very valuable early tech. That's what makes steel go from very inefficient to a perfectly fine business for keeping your tools going. So I bet you we just made so much money for our tools manufacturers. Yes, look at this. This tools workshop in New York, the big one, is already... buff that, is already making $23,000 profit. That's all profit, despite having a depressed, weakened tool price here. And that's with them selling abroad. And that is because we brought down their main input costs. Their main thing they were paying for was steel, and we just brought down the price of steel a bunch. Paradox games are truly the epitome of what are the French doing in England, mind your own business. Yeah. You see all kinds of wacky things. You see Britain, like, they'll just conquer, like, Bangkok and stuff. It's crazy. Yeah, but mine was a Monty Python joke. Okay, fair. Okay, trade centers. Wow, those build fast. Let's check here. So if this fills back up and the trade capacity goes the using goes all the way to the max right away, then I'm just gonna raise it up more. But for now, it looks like it might be downsizing a little. It looks like it's not using the full capacity yet. But that might change. You never know. Like, we just finished the huge log camp. It already fully employed, and it's very profitable despite terrible hardwood price. But the input is so cheap for it, and the labor for it is so cheap that it's still making good money. And surely we can make more as the trade center sells more. Okay, it is slowly selling more and more. This is good. Canvas of Ideas is an import paper quest, which I will tell them to start importing, but I don't, I would rather just build the paper. Do I want Joseph here? He's a traditionalist armed forces? No, these people make a mockery of the United States. I'd rather lose a little prestige and have less radicals from political movements than taking a traditionalist. Traditionalists just want, like, no rights for people, essentially. Inefficient agriculture got buffed recently. It used to always be that the top one was always the best. Now there's 3 different things you can really pick from. Have a boost for, like, army conscription rate somewhere, a boost for agriculture throughput, or a boost for manufacturing. I mean, always pick manufacturing. It's still the best one. because manufacturing is so valuable. We'll pay money to help the Cherokee not die. Gifts amongst friends. I would like to gain more legitimacy. Oh, but this would mean an abolitionist leader has to retire. Here's what we could do. Yeah, here's what we're going to do. We're going to tell him to step down for legitimacy. The new guy is a Democrat, which is fine, but I still want an abolitionist. So we're going to take John Brown and assign him as the leader. There we go. We got a new abolitionist as the leader of the evangelicals again. We can only appoint a new person as the leader of a party once every 5 years. But that was worth it. And we got some legitimacy for a few years out of it, which is nice. We're getting ever closer to going above 50, which would be very good. And we can start easily going public healthcare now. I should have done it earlier, it just slipped my mind. But we have no stall chance, and we have a decent success chance, so it's unlikely that we can fail, but you still can fail. Okay. We're on a little bit of tool spam because we want to get up to the economy of scale bonus on it to make the most out of these tools. You can see as we build more, it's owned by the United States of America and thus making regular tools. But as we privatize these and the company buys them from us, not only do we make the money from selling it to them, but because the company then owns it, the company will then produce precision tools out of that and have a higher bonus. We want the company to own all of this, so we are very happily selling this to them. Invite country to power block. Guatemala will join. That's great. We're getting more Central American countries. Again, not the biggest or most valuable countries, but we're trying to take whatever we can get right now, get them on our good side. And somehow the Hudson Bay Company is losing a fight to 1 battalion, because the AI can be very incompetent from time to time. Okay, we still have a lot of peasants, even after this is going to all go down in New York. We employ people so fast, it's unreal. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to max out the fishing wharfs because there aren't many, and I want cheaper food for the laborers to help keep their SOL good. We're going to get 1 whaling station. They get you a little bit of oil, and they get you a little bit of meat. Meat is powerful, oil is powerful, but it's not a very powerful building. It's cheap to get, so I'll just get it to start employing. And I will go level 6. No, I'm going all the way to 20 on the iron mine. By then, I'll have run out of people, but that's okay. I'll still have a lot of job seekers, and I'm sure more people will move in. It's New York. Colonization of Texas complete, which means... Oh, it's already incorporated. Okay, cool. Health tax. This is a common one when you're trying to pass a health law. We can say we can get by without it, get 10%. Take it from the tax fund, pisses off the industrialists a little, takes a little bit of money, you get 20. I want the plus 30, and it's $10,000 a week while I'm enacting the next law. So it takes a while. We're going to pay a lot of money doing that. But I really, really, really want to pass the law, and we're rich enough to do it, and I kind of want to go into debt, because any interest payments we make will be getting paid back to the wealthy of the country, so they make more money, they buy more goods, and they build more buildings. I want to empower them to industrialize the country more, and so I would quite like to run a deficit. So I'm happy to lose that money, and I don't like that I have almost 6 million banked. I'm going to up my construction even more. Kentucky. Yeah, Kentucky. They don't have any peasants left, but they can just shift people from other jobs. I'm not going to go too hardcore on it. On this patch, a construction sector only employs 1,000 people, so it's not a big deal. Positivist movement has started, which are people who want a technocracy. They're anti-elections, and they think that the country should be run by academics and engineers. They're kind of a fun meme ideology that you see come in charge every once in a while. They can be strong. They're kind of like a better version of oligarchy, if you ask me, and oligarchy is a generally strong law. But if you're already very democratic like we are, then we really have no reason to get that. I'm gonna auto the New York Tool Workshop. There we go. You can see this is already making such crazy money. Modern sewage gives us not only a weekly construction max progress, so we're now spending 25 instead of 20 on each place, so we're building each place faster. But it also gives us 5 more to maximum construction sector level in any location, and a bunch of free infrastructure. Okay, either lose a fuckload of authority, which we would never pick, or slightly piss off one of 2 groups. Both groups love me. I'll pick evangelicals to piss off because they like me even more. So it basically does nothing. Cool. Okay, we need to keep some more paper as well. I forgot that that's really important to me right now. So I'm going to get 3 paper mills up at the top. New York uses a lot of paper, so that's a sensible place. Bosniaks are moving into Arkansas. Why is it always Arkansas? Hey, Arkansas. Wow, there's more Greek people in Arkansas than any other demographic. That's crazy. They have a lot of cultural communities there. Quinine! Yay! Now that is a very important tech to me because that's what lets us map the western frontier. We're going to immediately start on that. It's going to cost us money, but we are going to start our first expedition. I know the person for the job lets us pick from 3 random people. Are any of them already explorers? No. So we can make someone an explorer. Even if they fail, as long as they live, they'll be an explorer. I'm going to send out this Isaac Hull. He's an admiral of the Industrialists. If he dies, it's not a big deal. While they're on the expedition, we're paying an extra 9,000 a week. And if we complete 3 of these expeditions successfully, then we can get Washington and Oregon once we, colonize more here. Also, we can invest more in our colonization colony growth speed, now that we have the bureaucracy for that. Me in New York, hearing you casually mention, yeah. I live near New York IRL, but I live in Canada. So it's near, but it's not that near. It's still a bit of a drive. Snow on the ground. We can either press on, have a 60% chance to survive it, 40% chance to get lost, or we can get delayed slightly and not have any peril, but also not have any progress. Generally, I prefer taking the chances, but now that they made it so that there are heavier penalties for failing an expedition, you want to be a little more careful, but I will press on. While it was difficult, the expedition has successfully plowed through the snow. Good! We gained progress. So you can see we have a green progress bar. We have a red expedition peril bar under that's just empty right now. When the expedition progress bar fills, we win. If the peril fills first, we lose. An explorer's life for me. We can either say we need some discipline, we take a break for a little while in the expedition, but we reduce our peril, or we can say they just need a break. We gain a little progress, gain a lot of peril. I'm gonna just take the delay. I hate getting that when we don't even have peril, but I'd rather the delay than getting more peril than progress. Generally a better decision. Millie wants a nation that runs on weekend at Bernie's logic. Yeah, you cannot unfortunately run a country from a dead guy. Okay. Public health here doing great. We also have South Germans from France moving to Kentucky. I'm guessing that's people from Alsace-Lorraine. Almost definitely. Okay, undiscovered plant species. This is always a good one. I like this one. Slight delay, and we can gain a little prestige for 5 years and minor progress. Or we'd say, what are we, gardeners? And not do it and gain more progress. I'm going to take the small progress and take the prestige, because that's half the reason you do expeditions, is the prestige is good. If we look at migration around the world, yeah, I was right. You can see that there's almost 3,000 people a week here moving from the German-speaking parts of France to Kentucky, Missouri, Indiana, Ohio, and West Virginia. And you can see here we have Bosniaks are still moving to Louisiana, and the French South Germans moving to Kentucky and the neighboring states. And that's great. We would not be getting that kind of wave in Kentucky if not for how I spammed it and built some wealth. In fact, let's look at our wet modes and look at national GDP. The deeper green, the more of our GDP comes from these places. You can see 18.8% of our whole country's GDP is coming from New York. 75% of that is tools. Our tools are by far the most important good we're selling. Pennsylvania, they're making a lot off iron and steel. Kentucky, it's wood. Obviously, it's wood, although despite having way more wood than coal, the coal is making them almost as much money. Coal is very valuable, and that's why I'm going to invest in it so heavily in Kentucky. Also, we are starting to get too much money again, and I don't like it. If we pass a week so it recalculates, yeah, we're still making more money than I want. We're maxing out New York again now that we have the new law, and Pennsylvania. Because we got a new law that allows us to build up our trade, our construction sectors a little bigger. Paper import successful. Stop subventing that, because I'd rather make my own. Here we go. We're beefing up that construction in Pennsylvania and New York again. This will translate to quite a bit. And generally when you're above about 250 construction, which we just passed, is when you want to do your big university spam. We research based on this. Innovation. Our cap right now is 131.9. We're only generating 59. So we could be researching way faster. And the way we're going to do that is a very big university, which I'm going to build up to size 30 immediately in New York. I'm going to queue it up so it starts on that pretty much right away. Yes, they're lacking people, but they are going to get the immigration, and we're not worried about that. Swollen River. We can either try and wade through the river, which we have a 2/3 chance of successfully doing, or we can just wait. I'm going to just go through. I'm going to wade the river. Hey, we successfully crossed the river with little to no difficulty. Gain progress. We're doing amazing, by the way, on trying to reach Utah. Our first expedition is trying to reach Utah to find the Great Salt Lake. Okay, this is still looking good. We still make crazy profit as we build new iron mines. Now, we could probably do some labor-saving PMs here. What we could do, for instance, is spend 500 coal a week, cutting into the profits here of our tool workshop, but, you know, moving the profits to another building, so it's not lost. It's just going somewhere else. But we'd also be firing 45,000 laborers who can then go get other jobs in New York. Generally, you want to use a lot of labor-saving PMs as the game goes on and it becomes affordable, because you'd have a higher percentage of your people working higher-paying jobs, and thus your standard of living goes up. But obviously, you want to be careful with it and only do it when it really makes sense. Canneries we just got, so we can have our food industries do canned meat or canned fish. Once we have vacuum packing, they do a bit of both. Right now, we would make more money doing fish, but I'm going to do meat because I want to encourage more meat production. That's going to be a big money maker for us in the long run. So we're producing more groceries now. We want to move people onto eating more groceries rather than other foods because they are more satisfying foods. And also, the people working those buildings work good jobs, and we want to funnel money in there. When the earth opened its mouth, making their way through the mountains, the expedition finds a dangerous gorge. That has the hiccups because my stomach is empty. Their guide advises them to take longer, more secure route instead of the crossing. I can say our guide knows better and we're delayed slightly. Or we can say no time to waste. We either gain some peril or a little bit of progress. I'm going to say the guide knows better. We're very close to a victory. I don't want to jeopardize it right now. Yeah, Mormons aren't a thing yet. Mormonism was what's the term even for the cropping up of a religion? Do you say invented when it's a religion? I don't know. The foundation of Mormonism was during the course of this game. A circular expedition. Pick a random direction and push on, or wait for nightfall and use the stars as a guide. I only have a 1/3 chance of getting back on track, so I'm going to wait for nightfall. It's only minor peril, which is not a big deal. Envy wants you to help save the business. Thanks, Almost Active. I appreciate that. And we just hit level 3 colonial affairs, which means we are now colonizing faster. Also, we just reached New Mexico. Good vintage. This is a common one. Wine production Texas is lauded by sommeliers as outstanding. We can either get 50% more output of wine there, which is a hefty amount of wine, but wine is not a great good. I would rather just take 5% more prestige on the country by making an exclusive product for export. SOL in New York, not great. A lot of people are below expected SOL, which is telling me It's time we get a food industry. And ooh, do they already have furniture? They already have furniture. They already have textiles. If we look at the local goods prices here, groceries are really expensive. Yeah. Yeah. Groceries would make them happy. I'll get a little bit of local grocery production. They're going to have local production of basically everything at some point because New York is such a good state to build tall in. Oh, philosophy department for having a fully employed level 5 university with philosophy department. We can gain 25% university building throughput for 5 years or a tech boost on socialism. Normally, I take the tech boost because that's a really big amount of tech, but because we're a country that over the next 5 years is going to have a very big university, I do believe I would get more out of thesis, antithesis, or antithesis, and synthesis. So we'll do that. Fugitive slave. Free soil makes anyone free. Southern plantation owners can fuck off. Okay. What is this? Oh, the American-British Friendship Society. We can either increase the interest strength of the industrialists, which is nice, or we can weaken them and get some legitimacy. The industrialists don't need the help, but I don't want to weaken them. I'm going to take the thing that gives them a boost just because I know that more than anything, they're going to be eating into the southern planters' strength, and I do want the southern planters weaker. Indian removal, the Cherokee, I will gladly pay $3,000 a week to help them move. And here we go, a stop on the way. If you ever get the opportunity as a perfect place to build a fort, do it. Not only does it reduce your peril, but every subsequent exploration you do of the Midwest, you might get an event where you can then visit that that fort that you built in the past to get rid of even more peril. So it's a long-term investment, very much worth doing. Your mic sounds like a robot. Why does that occasionally happen? Sound fucked for... Hold on. I'm going to listen to it right now. I'm going to go audio property... microphone monitor. Okay. Oh, I do. Is it a loose wire? It's still going. Holy shit. I've never had that stay. I can hear it in OBS. And you can hear two of me now. Sorry about that. It's how I check it. Okay. I've never had this stay and be so stubborn. I'm going to unplug the mic and plug it right back in. Okay. Nope, still Robo. I don't know yet if it's OBS doing that. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do an outro. Oh my god, that sounds horrible. Yeah, no, I'm gonna do an outro. Cause I was gonna end in a minute anyway, and then I can finally test this problem that has happened so rarely. Thank you everybody so much for watching, and until next time, have a nice day.